Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this series on mental wellness in the age of the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Earl Blacklock. I'm a Canadian certified counselor. I am also the executive director of Island Integrated Counseling in Vancouver Island in British Columbia. A lot of people are experiencing anxiety, perhaps even for the first time, where it is an overwhelming sense of being out of control, of not being able to manage your present life effectively. For others, anxiety has been a familiar companion for some time, and sometimes it's something that has followed them from childhood. Whatever your experience of anxiety, when you're experiencing that anxiety, it's going to have an effect on your body, it's going to have an effect on your wellness, and it's going to have an effect on your immune system, which means essentially that the more anxiety you have, the less your immune system is going to be ready to counter what happens if you are exposed to COVID-19. So we want to discuss today how best to deal with the anxiety that arises from the COVID-19 circumstance, the pandemic, and our lives as we try to live through this difficult period. So what is anxiety? Anxiety is essentially what happens when the fear center of your body sends a signal to your vagus nerve to activate the sympathetic response. The sympathetic response is the response that is responsible for the fight or flight response. Getting your body ready to deal with a threat, an enemy, something that you can either run away from or fight. And so in activating that fight or flight instinct, the cortisol in your body increases, the adrenaline in your body increases, your heart rate increases, your breathing increases, you're made ready, you're hyper alert, you're looking for where the danger is and where an attack might come from. The sensation of anxiety sounds familiar to that because it's what happens when you are in fight or flight for an extended period of time. When you don't have the off switch for that fight or flight response, you remain in it, and it does have an effect not just on your emotional and psychological well-being, but on your body, because your body internalizes that anxiety and causes, for example, gastrointestinal distress. It causes heart palpitations, headaches, sort of tension and perhaps shaking. Anxiety internalizes into the body if it's not resolved. And so how is it supposed to be resolved? Normally what happens is our eyes see that danger has walked away, the bear that we feared has gone back into the woods, the danger is past, whatever that danger was. And so our higher brain function sends a signal to the vagus nerve to activate the parasympathetic system response. That response essentially lowers your heart rate. It lowers your breathing rate. It allows you to recover from the fight or flight stage. It's a calming effect. And so if you have that calming effect, you will cycle from being in that readiness state to being calm. If you don't have that calming effect, the result is anxiety. And so we want to be able to deal with anxiety. We want to ensure that we are sending the proper signal, the desired signal to the body to calm itself. When You engage in rumination, which is obsessive thinking about the past, or you engage in worry, which is obsessive thinking about the catastrophic future. That is something that will feed anxiety. It will uh, confirm to the fear center of your brain that there is a threat, there is something that you need to be very mindful of and conscious of, because there is a danger, there is an enemy, there is something to be concerned about. And when the enemy is a virus, it's something that you can't run away from, you can't fight. You are best to just stay calm and remain in a calm state. You're going to find that that is something that is more difficult and more challenging to resolve, because where's the enemy? How can I see that the enemy has been removed from the equation? And so we become anxious about that. The way to get away from that anxious state is, instead of feeding the anxiety with obsessive thinking about the past, the rumination, or obsessive thinking about the future, the worry, allowing ourselves to come into the present. And in the present, we have control. We have the ability to take action. We have the ability to make decisions. We have the ability to make choices. And we have the ability to plan. So the present, with a hopeful view of the future, that is the state that we want to have ourselves in, so that we're able to deal with the anxiety that would otherwise be produced by feeding that fight or flight instinct. Now, sometimes we're going to find that the present is not the place that we want to spend a lot of time in, because it itself is highly distressing. That is certainly the situation with the COVID-19 situation. The virus is affecting people. It's even killing some. The present is a place that has its own distress. We still want to come into the present from the catastrophic future or from the catastrophic past. And in coming into the present, we then turn our focus to a hopeful view of the future. A hopeful view of the future means taking time to plan and think about what is going to happen that is positive and productive in our lives in the future. This might be a good time for you to start thinking, for example, about further education to enhance your career prospects. It might be the time to start thinking about your retirement and what you would do, and the volunteer work that you'd enjoy, and perhaps a post-retirement career. The opportunities to plan your next vacation, and likely one that avoids some of the challenges of some of the choices you might have made before the COVID-19 situation. You might take time to start considering the possibility, for example, of doing renovations and planning out those renovations, so that you have something to do in the present that takes you away from the catastrophic future or the catastrophic past. All of these things are approaches and techniques that are things that we tend to do automatically when we're not overwhelmed. It's when we're overwhelmed, when we're highly distressed, when we are facing uncertainty, that we tend to allow ourselves to remain in unhealthy situations, such as hypervigilance, hyperattention, conflict, and being in fight or flight all the time. So it's as we start to deal with the root causes of anxiety and start to look to the future as a hopeful place, as a place that we recognize this current distress is a temporary one, and there is hope for the future, that we start to be able to deal with the distresses that is causing our anxiety. I hope that is helpful to you, and I'll see you at the next session.